The old lighthouse on the cliffs of Oakhaven pulsed its steady beam, a gentle heartbeat against the deepening twilight. Below, in the sleepy hollow of the town, Elara Finch hummed a quiet tune as she wiped down the counter of her cafe, the Cosmic Brew. The scent of roasted coffee beans mingled with a faint whisper of cinnamon, and the salty tang of the sea breeze drifting through the open door. It was a smell she'd come to associate with comfort, with home, with the quiet magic of a life lived under an expansive sky. Elara loved the night. She always had. Even as a child, while others dreamed of sunshine and playgrounds, she'd been captivated by the velvet darkness, the pinpricks of light that scattered across it like spilled diamonds. Oakhaven, with its minimal light pollution and a sky that stretched seemingly forever, was the perfect place for a stargazer. It's why she'd opened the Cosmic Brew here, tucked away on a cobbled street that sloped gently towards the harbor, its large glass windows offering a prime view of the heavens when the weather allowed. Tonight, however, promised a particularly spectacular show. A meteor shower, nicknamed the Lyrid Lace by local enthusiasts, was due to peak. Elara had spent the afternoon preparing. Extra blankets were folded neatly in a basket by the window seats. Her special blend of Stardust tea, a fragrant concoction of lavender, chamomile, and a hint of ginger, was brewing in a large pot. Even the pastries, lemon drizzle cakes and blueberry muffins, had been dusted with edible glitter, twinkling like miniature galaxies. Her regulars, a charming collection of artists, retired fishermen, and quirky academics, would appreciate the touch. She ran a hand through her dark, wavy hair, pulling a few stray strands behind her ear. Elara wasn't conventionally beautiful, but there was a luminous quality about her, a quiet intensity in her deep brown eyes that held the reflection of countless starry nights. She was slender, often dressed in comfortable, practical clothes, but there was an elegance in her movements, a grace born of quiet observation. She was 29, and while many of her friends were settling down, building families, Elara's greatest love affair remained with the cosmos. It was a vast, comforting presence that never judged, never left, and always offered new wonders. The bell above the door chimed, a sound that usually heralded the arrival of Mrs. Gable for her evening, decaf or young Finn, the paperboy, for a hot chocolate. But the figure who stepped inside wasn't familiar. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled the doorway, and a lean, athletic build. His hair, the color of rich earth, was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it in frustration or thought. But it was his eyes that caught Elara's attention first, a startling shade of green, intense and intelligent, scanning the cafe with an almost academic curiosity before settling on her. He wore a simple dark jumper and jeans, but carried himself with an air of quiet authority, like someone accustomed to being listened to. He also carried a large, rather intimidating-looking telescope bag slung over one shoulder. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a low, resonant baritone, a pleasant surprise after the gentle murmur of Oakhaven accent. "Is this the Cosmic Brew?" Elara smiled, a genuine welcoming smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. "It is, and you found us just in time for the Lyrid Lace." She gestured vaguely towards the window where the first faint stars were beginning to prick through the indigo sky. He returned her smile, a slow, unfolding gesture that transformed his serious face, revealing a dimple high on his left cheek. "Excellent. I was hoping I had. I'm Cassian Thorne." He extended a hand across the counter. His grip was firm, warm, and surprisingly gentle. "Elara Finch," she replied, her palm tingling slightly from the contact. "What brings you to Oakhaven, Cassian Thorne? That looks like serious equipment you're carrying." She gestured to the telescope bag. He chuckled, a soft, pleasant sound. "It is. I'm an astrophysicist. I heard Oakhaven had some of the darkest skies on this part of the coast, and with the Lyrid shower approaching, it seemed like the perfect spot for some amateur observation." His eyes twinkled, betraying a deeper passion than his casual tone suggested. "I'm on a sabbatical, doing a bit of field work, a bit of exploring, and I confess I'm a sucker for a good meteor shower." "Amateur observation?" Elara raised an eyebrow playfully. "With a telescope like that, I'd say you're underselling yourself, but you're certainly in the right place. We take our stargazing very seriously here." She leaned against the counter, suddenly feeling completely at ease with this intriguing stranger. What can I get you, Cassian? A coffee to fuel your celestial pursuits? Or perhaps a stardust tea? He considered her, his green eyes thoughtful. Stardust tea, you say? That sounds appropriate. And perhaps something sweet to go with it? I've been driving all day. Coming right up. Elara turned, reaching for a mug. As she poured the tea, the steam carrying its fragrant promise, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't experienced in a while, a genuine, unforced curiosity about another person. Her life in Oakhaven was rich with the quiet comfort of routine and the grandeur of the night sky, but it rarely introduced such unexpected elements. She placed the steaming mug and a generous slice of lemon drizzle cake in front of him. Help yourself to a blanket if you get chilly later. The sea air can be deceiving. Cassian took a sip of the tea, his eyes closing for a moment in appreciation. This is wonderful. Exactly what I needed. He opened his eyes, meeting hers. So, Elara Finch, you clearly have a passion for the stars too. Is the cosmic brew named for more than just aesthetics? Oh, absolutely, she confirmed, her voice softening as she spoke of her passion. My great-grandfather was an amateur astronomer. He built a small observatory just outside town where I spent countless nights as a child. He taught me the constellations, the myths, the science. When I decided to open this cafe, it just felt right to connect it to that legacy. We host stargazing nights. Sometimes I give little talks about the constellations or upcoming celestial events. It's a way to share the wonder. That's beautiful, Cassian said, genuinely impressed. He took another bite of the cake, humming his approval. It's rare to find someone who shares that kind of depth of appreciation. Most people just see pretty lights. And there's nothing wrong with that, Elara countered gently. But there's so much more to discover, isn't there? The stories they tell, the science they embody, the sheer scale of it all. It puts everything into perspective. Indeed it does, he agreed, his gaze drifting towards the window where the first faint stars were now visible. It reminds you of how small we are, and yet how connected. We're all made of stardust after all. Elara felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't just his words, but the way he said them, with a quiet reverence that resonated deeply with her own feelings. It wasn't often she met someone who understood that profound connection. So, where are you setting up your amateur observation post tonight? She asked, leaning forward slightly. Cassian hesitated, a flicker of something unreadable in his green eyes. I haven't quite decided yet. I saw a few promising spots on the drive-in, but I'm open to suggestions. I'm staying at the Salty Pelican down by the harbor. Ah, old Mr. Henderson's place, Elara nodded. It's quaint. Well, for the Lyrid Lace, you'll want a clear view to the northeast. They appear to radiate from the constellation Lyra. The old lighthouse path offers a fantastic panorama, but it can get quite windy. Or there's a clearing up on Widow's Peak, just past the old observatory. It's a bit of a hike, but the views are unparalleled. Cassian's eyes lit up at the mention of the observatory. An old observatory, you say? Is it still in use? Not officially, Elara explained. It's a little dilapidated now, but the structure is still there. It belonged to my great-grandfather. I still go up there sometimes, just to sit and look through his old telescope. It's not as powerful as modern ones, but it has a certain charm. She didn't mention the ache of longing she sometimes felt there, wishing he were still alive to share the wonders with her. That sounds perfect, Cassian mused, a thoughtful frown creasing his brow. Perhaps I could take a look at it tomorrow, if it's accessible. Of course, Elara said, a spark of excitement igniting within her. I can give you directions. It's not hard to find. The cafe was quiet save for the gentle clinking of his spoon against the mug and the distant murmur of the ocean. The stars outside grew bolder, brighter, like tiny lights being switched on one by one. Elara found herself simply enjoying his presence, a comfortable silence settling between them. He had a way of making her feel seen, not just as the owner of the cosmic brew, but as Elara, the stargazing enthusiast. So, what exactly are you hoping to observe tonight, Cassian? She asked, breaking the silence. Just the sheer spectacle, or something more specific? He looked up, his gaze intense. A bit of both, honestly. I'm particularly interested in the composition of these meteor showers. The Lyrids are known for their fast, bright meteors, often leaving persistent trains. I'm hoping to capture some spectroscopic data if possible. But yes, The sheer spectacle is always a draw. There's nothing quite like witnessing a cosmic fireworks display. No, there isn't, Alara agreed wholeheartedly. It makes you feel alive, doesn't it? Connected to something ancient and vast. Precisely, he said, his voice softer now. It's a reminder that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. A sense of perspective that's increasingly rare in our busy world. He finished his tea, then looked at his watch. It's getting late. I should probably head out and find my spot. Thank you, Alara. The tea was excellent, and the cake was a revelation. You're very welcome, she said, feeling a slight pang of disappointment that he was leaving. I hope you have a spectacular night of observation. He stood up, gathering his telescope bag. I hope so too, and thank you for the suggestions. Widow's Peak sounds intriguing. Perhaps you'd consider joining me? He caught her eye, a hopeful, yet slightly hesitant expression on his face. You clearly know these skies better than anyone, and it would be good to have company, a shared wonder, as you said. Alara's heart gave a little flutter. She hadn't expected that. She usually spent these nights alone, wrapped in her own private world of cosmic contemplation. But the idea of sharing it with Cassian, with his intelligent eyes and his shared reverence for the stars, was surprisingly appealing. I'd like that very much, Cassian, she found herself saying, a genuine smile spreading across her face. I'll close up here in about an hour, then I can meet you up there. Do you know how to get to Widow's Peak? I have a rough idea from the map I picked up, but your guidance would be invaluable, he admitted, his smile widening. I'll head up there now and try to find a good setup spot. Will you be all right walking up there in the dark? Oh, I know the path like the back of my hand, she reassured him. I'll bring a thermos of hot chocolate and some more cake. Just look for the light of my headlamp. Perfect, he said, his green eyes sparkling. Then I look forward to it, Alara. He gave her a small, grateful nod, then turned and stepped back out into the deepening twilight, leaving behind a lingering scent of sea air and something distinctly masculine, perhaps a hint of aftershave, or simply the fresh outdoors. Alara watched him go, a warmth spreading through her veins that had nothing to do with the stardust tea. The cafe suddenly felt a little emptier, but also filled with a new, vibrant anticipation. She hummed a different tune now, one with a lighter, more hopeful melody. She quickly finished her closing duties, her hands moving with an unusual speed. She brewed a fresh batch of her special hot chocolate, rich with dark cocoa and a swirl of vanilla, and packed the remaining lemon drizzle cake and some extra blankets into a sturdy backpack. She grabbed her own old pair of binoculars just in case, and her trusty headlamp. The walk up the winding path to Widow's Peak was familiar and comforting. The air grew crisper with every step, and the sounds of the town faded, replaced by the rhythmic hush of the waves below and the occasional hoot of an owl. Above, the sky had transformed into a masterpiece. The moon was a slender crescent, offering just enough light to illuminate the path without washing out the stars. And oh, the stars! They glittered with an intensity that took her breath away, a vast, silent ocean of light. As she neared the summit, a faint beam of light cut through the darkness, sweeping across the ground. Cassian. He was there. Her heart quickened its pace, a pleasant flutter of excitement. She followed the beam to a small, relatively flat clearing, sheltered slightly by a cluster of ancient oak trees. Cassian's imposing telescope was already set up, its dark barrel pointing towards the northeast, a silent sentinel against the cosmic tapestry. He was standing beside it, adjusting something with meticulous care, his profile silhouetted against the star-dusted sky. Cassian, she called softly, not wanting to startle him. He turned, his headlamp beam sweeping over her before he clicked it off, letting the starlight illuminate his face. A genuine smile touched his lips. Alara, you made it, and just in time. The first few stragglers are starting to show themselves. He gestured towards the sky, and just then, as if on cue, a thin, quick streak of light flashed across the darkness, gone almost before she could fully register it. A collective gasp of wonder seemed to hang in the silent air between them. Oh, Alara breathed, her eyes wide. That was beautiful. Just a preview, Cassian said, his voice low with shared wonder. The main event is yet to come. He helped her shed her backpack, his fingers brushing hers for a fleeting moment that sent a shiver through her. He spread one of the blankets on the ground, inviting her to sit. They settled side by side, looking up at the vast unfolding drama above. The hot chocolate was a welcome warmth against the cool night air, its sweetness a perfect counterpoint to the awe-inspiring silence. They sat in comfortable quiet for a long time, simply watching, waiting. The first few meteors were hesitant, quick flashes, but as the hours ticked by, they became more frequent, bolder. Streaks of white, yellow, and even faint green light arced across the sky, leaving ghostly trails that lingered for a moment before fading into the vastness. Ilara pointed out constellations, told him the ancient Greek myths associated with Lyra, the harp of Orpheus. Cassian, in turn, explained the scientific intricacies of the shower, the comet Thatcher's icy debris burning up in Earth's atmosphere, the velocity, the composition. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a seamless blend of myth and science, wonder and knowledge. "It's truly incredible," Cassian murmured, his voice laced with a profound sense of awe. "To think these tiny particles have traveled millions of miles, billions of years, just to put on a show for us tonight. And to think we're here, on this tiny blue marble, watching it," Ilara added, her voice soft. "It makes you feel connected to everything." He turned his head, looking at her in the dim starlight. His green eyes were luminous, reflecting the cosmic dance above. "Yes, connected. That's exactly it." As the meteor shower reached its peak, the sky became a canvas of fleeting light. Streaks rained down, some faint and quick, others bright and lingering, like luminous tears falling from the heavens. It was a silent, breathtaking symphony, and Ilara felt a deep, almost spiritual sense of peace settle over her. She glanced at Cassian, his face illuminated by the passing streaks of light. He was completely absorbed, his gaze fixed on the sky, a look of pure, unadulterated wonder on his face. In that moment, surrounded by the silent majesty of the cosmos, Ilara felt a peculiar sense of belonging, a feeling that this shared experience was forging a bond between them, fragile yet profound, like the faint, glowing trails of the meteors themselves. The night was far from over, and the Starfall continued its dazzling display, promising more wonders, more shared moments under the vast, star-dusted sky. The night was far from over, and the Starfall continued its dazzling display, promising more wonders, more shared moments under the vast, star-dusted sky. Ilara turned her gaze back to the cosmic ballet, a smile playing on her lips. Liam, still mesmerized, shifted slightly, and his arm brushed hers, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver, not from the cold, but from a quiet thrill, through Ilara. They were close enough now that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, a comforting anchor in the immense chill of the night. Another meteor streaked across the sky, a brilliant emerald slash that burned out just as quickly as it appeared. "Did you see that one?" Liam whispered, his voice hushed with awe. "Green. I've never seen a green one before." "It was magnificent," Ilara agreed, her voice equally soft. She stole a glance at him. In the faint starlight, his profile was etched with a sort of rugged grace, his jawline strong, his dark hair falling a little over his forehead. His eyes, she imagined, would still hold that light of wonder. "Almost felt like a secret, just for us." He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the air between them. "I suppose it did. The universe putting on a private show." He turned his head then, his gaze meeting hers. The wonder was still there, but now, mixed with a gentle curiosity that made Ilara's breath catch. "Are you cold?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine concern. "A little," she admitted, though the truth was, she hardly noticed the chill anymore. The warmth of his presence was far more potent. Without a word, Liam leaned forward, reaching for the thick wool blanket he'd brought. He unfolded it with practiced ease, then, with a hesitant glance at Ilara, draped it over both their shoulders, tucking it snugly around them. The move was simple, practical, yet utterly intimate. Now, not only was his arm brushing hers, but their shoulders were pressed together, the fabric of the blanket creating a shared cocoon against the encroaching cold. The scent of wood smoke and crisp mountain air, mixed with a subtle, clean scent that was uniquely Liam's, enveloped her. Ilara felt a blush creep up her neck, but she didn't pull away. Instead, She leaned ever so slightly into his warmth, a silent acknowledgement of the comfort he offered. The constellations above seemed to twinkle with renewed vigor, as if approving of their closeness. "Better?" he murmured, his voice closer now, soft against her ear. "Much," she replied, her voice a little shaky. She could feel his breath ghosting over her hair. It was a moment suspended in time, fragile and perfect, like the brief, brilliant life of a shooting star. They fell into a comfortable silence again, watching the remaining meteors dwindle, each one leaving a fleeting impression on the canvas of the night. Elara found herself thinking less about the cosmic spectacle and more about the man beside her. She wondered what kind of life he led, what dreams he chased when he wasn't marveling at the stars. There was a quiet strength about him, a groundedness, yet also this profound capacity for wonder that she found incredibly appealing. As the deep indigo of the sky began to soften at the eastern horizon, hinting at the imminent dawn, the meteors became fewer and farther between, their brilliance diminished by the encroaching light. The air grew colder, biting at their exposed faces, but the shared blanket and their proximity kept them warm. "It's almost over," Liam said, a touch of wistfulness in his tone. "All good things," Elara responded, a sigh escaping her lips. But it was truly unforgettable. He turned to her, and even in the dim light, she could see the warmth in his eyes. "It really was. Thank you for sharing it with me, Elara." "Thank you, Liam," she said, meeting his gaze. "I wouldn't have seen half of what I did without you pointing it out. And for the blanket." He smiled, a genuine, easy smile that made her heart flutter. "My pleasure. We should probably head inside before we turn into icicles." Reluctantly, they untangled themselves from the blanket, the sudden absence of his warmth, a noticeable chill. Elara gathered her thermos and backpack while Liam carefully folded the blanket. The first faint blush of pink and orange was painting the horizon as they made their way back to the cabin, the silence between them now filled with a different kind of energy, a quiet hum of shared experience and burgeoning possibility. Inside the cozy cabin, the air was still cool, carrying the faint scent of pine and the lingering aroma of the coffee they'd made earlier. Liam moved with a quiet efficiency, rekindling the dying embers in the stone fireplace. Soon a cheerful crackle filled the room, and the warmth began to spread, chasing away the last vestiges of the night's chill. "Coffee or tea?" Liam offered, gesturing towards the small kitchenette. "Coffee, please," Elara replied, rubbing her hands together near the growing fire. She watched him move, the way his muscles flexed under his flannel shirt as he poured water into a kettle, his movements graceful and unhurried. There was something deeply comforting about his presence, like a familiar melody. He brought over 2 steaming mugs, handing one to Elara. Their fingers brushed again, and this time, the touch lingered for a fraction of a second longer, a silent acknowledgement of the connection that had formed between them under the stars. "This is perfect," Elara murmured, cradling the warm mug in her hands. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled her senses, a welcome counterpoint to the crisp night air they'd just left. They settled onto the comfortable sofa, facing the fire, the soft glow illuminating their faces. The first rays of dawn were now streaming through the cabin windows, painting the rustic interior in hues of gold and rose. "So," Liam began, his voice soft, "what brings you to this neck of the woods, Elara? You mentioned needing a change of scenery." Elara took a sip of her coffee, gathering her thoughts. "I'm a textile artist," she explained, "a weaver mostly. I design patterns and create intricate tapestries. Lately, though, I felt stuck. The city, the constant noise, the pressure, it all started to feel like it was stifling my creativity." She gestured vaguely towards the window, where the first light was illuminating the surrounding forest. "I needed to reconnect with something real, something wild, to find inspiration again." Liam listened intently, his gaze steady and understanding. "I can imagine. It's easy to lose yourself in the hustle. So, you're seeking patterns in nature then?" "Exactly," Elara confirmed, feeling a surge of relief that he understood. "The way light filters through leaves, the texture of bark, the ebb and flow of the river. I want to translate that into my work, to create something that feels as authentic and alive as this place." She paused, a small self-conscious smile playing on her lips. It probably sounds a bit romanticized. Not at all, Liam countered, his voice earnest. I think it sounds beautiful. To be so connected to your craft, to seek inspiration in such a profound way, I admire that. He leaned back, taking a sip of his own coffee. I'm a park ranger, he offered, a gentle smile. So, I suppose you could say I'm always trying to connect people with nature, help them see its beauty and importance. A park ranger, Ilara repeated, a sudden warmth spreading through her. It suited him, she thought. His quiet strength, his appreciation for the natural world, his patient demeanor. That makes perfect sense. You have a way of seeing the magic in things, like the meteors last night. He chuckled, a blush touching his cheeks. Well, it's hard not to see the magic when you're surrounded by it every day, but it's different, seeing it with someone else, sharing that sense of awe. His gaze met hers, and Ilara felt a peculiar sense of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in a long while. What kind of patterns do you weave, Ilara? Are they abstract or more representational? A bit of both, she explained, feeling herself relax into the conversation. Sometimes I'll start with a specific image, a bird's wing, the intricate structure of a snowflake, and then let it evolve, abstracting it, playing with color and texture until it becomes something new. Other times, she found herself sharing details about her creative process that she rarely discussed with others, feeling an unusual comfort in Liam's attentive presence. They talked for what felt like hours, the conversation flowing easily between them, punctuated by comfortable silences and the crackle of the fire. They spoke of favorite books, of childhood memories, of the simple joys they found in life. Liam recounted stories of encounters with wildlife, of guiding hikers through challenging trails, and the immense satisfaction he felt in preserving the wilderness. Ilara, in turn, described the painstaking process of dyeing threads with natural pigments, the rhythm of the loom, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing a design come to life. As the sun climbed higher, flooding the cabin with golden light, Liam suggested, "How about some breakfast? I make a mean stack of blueberry pancakes if you're interested." Ilara's stomach rumbled in agreement. "That sounds wonderful, Liam. Is there anything I can do to help?" "You can set the table if you wouldn't mind," he said, already moving towards the small kitchen area. "And maybe tell me if I'm burning anything." He winked, and Ilara found herself laughing, a light, genuine sound that echoed pleasantly in the cabin. They worked together in a comfortable rhythm, Ilara finding plates and cutlery in the rustic cupboards, while Liam mixed batter with practiced ease. The scent of blueberries and warm maple syrup soon filled the air, mingling with the lingering aroma of coffee. Ilara watched him, admiring the easy confidence in his movements, the way his hands, strong and capable, handled the ingredients. She noticed a faint scar above his eyebrow, a small testament to a life lived outdoors, perhaps. Soon a generous stack of golden brown pancakes, studded with plump blueberries, graced the small wooden table. They ate, savoring each bite, the simple meal feeling like a feast after the long night. The morning light cast long shadows through the trees outside, highlighting the vibrant greens and browns of the forest. "These are incredible, Liam," Ilara said, genuinely impressed. "Seriously, you could open a diner." He chuckled. "Just a hobby. Comes in handy when you're out in the wilderness for days at a time." He met her gaze across the table, his eyes twinkling. "Though I suppose it's better with company." Ilara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling that had nothing to do with the hot coffee or the delicious pancakes. "It certainly is." After breakfast, they lingered over their coffee, the conversation shifting to their plans for the day. Ilara mentioned wanting to explore the trails around the cabin, to sketch, and collect natural materials for her weaving. Liam, it turned out, was planning a patrol of a section of the park that morning, checking on trail markers and looking for any signs of recent animal activity. "I could show you a few of my favorite spots," Liam offered, "places where the light is particularly beautiful, or where you might find some interesting textures, if you're up for a walk, that is." "I'd love that," Ilara replied instantly, her heart lifting. The thought of spending more time with him exploring this beautiful landscape together filled her with a quiet joy. "Just point me in the right direction when you're ready." They cleaned up the kitchen together, the ease of their movements around each other now feeling completely natural. There was no awkwardness, only a comfortable synchronicity that spoke volumes about the connection that had bloomed between them. Liam led the way out of the cabin, Elara following close behind, her sketchbook and a small bag for collecting tucked into her backpack. The air outside was crisp and clean, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and pine needles. The forest, now fully awake, hummed with the gentle sounds of birdsong and the rustle of leaves in the soft morning breeze. They walked along a narrow, winding trail, the path dappled with sunlight filtering through the canopy of ancient trees. Liam pointed out different types of trees, explained the tracks of various animals, and shared local lore about the mountains. Elara listened, captivated, occasionally stopping to sketch a particularly gnarled tree root or a delicate fern frond. He had a way of seeing the hidden beauty in everything, of making the ordinary seem extraordinary. He knelt to show her the intricate patterns on a fallen leaf, explained the symbiotic relationship between certain mosses and rocks, and pointed out a tiny, iridescent beetle crawling on a wildflower. Elara found herself seeing the forest through new eyes, appreciating the subtle nuances she might have otherwise overlooked. At one point, they came to a clearing overlooking a breathtaking vista of rolling hills and distant peaks. A small waterfall cascaded down a moss-covered rock face, its gentle roar a soothing backdrop to the expansive silence. Elara gasped, pulling out her sketchbook immediately. "This is incredible, Liam," she breathed, her pencil already flying across the page. "The light, the colors, it's exactly what I needed." Liam stood beside her, watching her sketch, a quiet smile on his face. He didn't interrupt, simply allowed her to immerse herself in her art. Elara felt completely at ease in his presence, unburdened by self-consciousness. She sketched the contours of the landscape, the way the sunlight kissed the distant mountains, the delicate spray of the waterfall. When she finally looked up, her fingers smudged with graphite, Liam was still watching her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You're very talented," he said, his voice soft. "It's beautiful, even in its unfinished state." "Thank you," she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her. It's a way for me to process the world, to understand it." They spent another hour at the clearing, Elara sketching and Liam simply enjoying the view, occasionally pointing out a soaring hawk or a deer grazing in the distance. When they finally decided to move on, a comfortable silence had settled between them, a shared understanding that transcended words. As the afternoon wore on, they continued their exploration, Liam's patrol seamlessly blending with Elara's quest for inspiration. They stopped by a babbling creek, where Elara collected smooth, water-worn stones and fallen leaves in vibrant hues. Liam helped her identify different types of wildflowers, his knowledge of the local flora seemingly endless. Elara found herself marveling at the sheer breadth of his understanding, not just of the scientific names, but of the intricate web of life that connected everything. He spoke of the forest as if it were a living entity, a beloved friend, and his passion was infectious. "You really love this, don't you?" Elara asked as they paused by an ancient oak, its branches reaching like gnarled arms towards the sky. "More than anything," he admitted, his gaze sweeping over the majestic tree. "It's a privilege to be a guardian of a place like this, to protect it and to share its beauty with others. It's not just a job, it's a calling." He turned to her, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "And seeing it through your eyes, seeing how you interpret it for your art, that's a new kind of magic." Elara felt her heart swell. His words resonated deeply within her, touching a chord she hadn't known was waiting to be struck. "You're making me see it differently too," she confessed. "More deeply, more intimately." They continued their walk, the setting sun beginning to cast long, golden shadows through the trees. The air grew cooler, carrying the promise of another crisp night. As they neared the cabin, a sense of quiet contentment settled over Elara. The day had unfolded with an effortless grace, each moment building on the last, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and deepening connection. Back at the cabin, the fireplace was still warm, and the scent of pine and wood smoke welcomed them inside. Liam suggested they make a simple dinner, perhaps a hearty stew he'd brought ingredients for. Elara readily agreed, feeling a renewed energy after the invigorating day. As they chopped vegetables and stirred pots, the kitchen filled with the comforting sounds of their activity and the gentle hum of conversation. Elara found herself reaching for an ingredient at the same time as Liam, their hands brushing, a spark of electricity passing between them. They both paused, their eyes meeting, a silent understanding passing between them. The moment was fleeting, yet charged with an unspoken possibility. Dinner was a simple affair, but tasted delicious after their day of exploration. They ate by the flickering light of the fire, the conversation flowing easily, punctuated by shared laughter and comfortable silences. The cabin, which had felt a little empty when Alara first arrived, now felt warm and alive, filled with their presence. Later, as the night deepened and the stars began to emerge once more, though not with the same dazzling intensity as the previous night, they sat by the fire, wrapped in the same wool blanket that had protected them from the cold during the meteor shower. The warmth of the fire, the gentle crackle of the logs, and the quiet comfort of Liam's presence created an atmosphere of profound peace. Alara leaned her head back against the sofa, closing her eyes for a moment, savoring the feeling. She felt truly at home, more so than she had in years. It wasn't just the cozy cabin or the beautiful wilderness. It was the man beside her, whose quiet strength and gentle spirit had opened up a space within her that she hadn't realized was aching to be filled. "It's been a perfect day, Liam," she murmured, opening her eyes to look at the dancing flames. "It has," he agreed, his voice a low rumble beside her. "Even without the meteors, the stars still feel brighter tonight." She turned her head to look at him, her heart filled with a profound gratitude. "They do." Her gaze lingered on his profile, etched in the firelight. "I'm so glad I came here." He turned his head slowly, his eyes dark and deep in the firelight, meeting hers. There was a tenderness in his gaze that sent a shiver of pure warmth through her. "Me too, Alara," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the crackle of the fire. "Me too." The air between them shimmered with unspoken emotions, a silent language of connection and longing. The cabin, the fire, the vast, star-dusted sky outside, everything seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next beat in the unfolding story of Alara. The night was still young, and the promise of tomorrow, with its gentle whispers and shared discoveries, beckoned. His whisper, so soft yet so potent, seemed to fill the entire cabin, eclipsing even the crackle and hiss of the fire. Alara's breath hitched, a silent, exquisite surrender. Her gaze, wide and bright with a mixture of surprise and profound recognition, met Liam's. In the amber glow, his eyes, usually so steady and calm, held a new, shimmering vulnerability, a reflection of the tumultuous yet beautiful emotions that had just swept through her. A slow, tender smile bloomed on Alara's lips, a silent answer to his confession. It was a smile that promised understanding, acceptance, and a hope she hadn't realized she'd been holding on to. Liam's lips curved in return, a gentle, almost shy acknowledgement that mirrored hers. The unspoken conversation flowed between them, a current of pure, unadulterated connection that bypassed words entirely. Slowly, as if moving through warm honey, Liam lifted his hand. His fingers, calloused from work she imagined, but hadn't yet seen, reached for hers, resting lightly on her knuckles. A jolt, soft as a butterfly's wing but just as undeniable, coursed through Alara. She didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her hand, her fingers instinctively lacing with his, fitting together as though they had always belonged there. His thumb stroked gently across the back of her hand, a small, comforting gesture that spoke volumes. They sat there, side by side, hands intertwined, the only sounds the rhythmic dance of the flames and the soft intake and release of their shared breaths. The silence wasn't awkward. It was a sanctuary, a sacred space where their nascent feelings could unfurl without the pressure of definition or expectation. Alara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her, a quiet understanding that something precious and fragile had just begun. It was startling how quickly this connection had taken root, bypassing the usual cautious steps of acquaintance, diving straight into a depth she hadn't anticipated. Yet, it felt undeniably right, like finding a long-lost melody. Eventually, the fire began to dwindle, its embers glowing with a softer light. A comfortable sigh escaped Liam's lips, and he gently squeezed her hand. "It's getting late," he murmured, his voice now a little stronger, though still imbued with that recent tenderness. Alara nodded, a reluctant sigh bubbling up from her own chest. She wished the moment could stretch on indefinitely, suspended in this perfect, quiet understanding. "It is," she agreed, her voice a little breathy. She slowly withdrew her hand, feeling an immediate chill in its absence, though the warmth of their connection lingered in her heart. They rose, moving with a newfound carefulness around each other, as if aware of the invisible threads now connecting them. Liam tended to the dying fire, banking the coals for the morning, while Alara tidied up the mugs, her movements slow and deliberate. As she walked past him on her way to her room, his hand reached out, a light touch on her arm that sent a ripple of warmth through her. "Good night, Alara," he said, his gaze holding hers. There was a question in his eyes, a silent wondering about what tomorrow would bring, what this moment truly meant. "Good night, Liam," she replied, her voice soft with promise. She offered him a small, hopeful smile before turning and retreating to her room, leaving him by the embers. Inside her room the air was cool, but Alara felt a deep heat radiating from within. She changed into her night clothes, her mind replaying the evening's events, the shared stories, the easy laughter, the unexpected confession by the fire. She found herself smiling into the darkness, a lightness bubbling in her chest. It was a feeling she hadn't known in a long time, a sense of belonging, a quiet excitement for the unknown. Drifting off to sleep, she carried the lingering warmth of Liam's hand in hers, the gentle hum of the fire, and the silent promise of a new day. Liam stood by the window for a long time after Alara had gone to her room, gazing out at the star-dusted sky. The moon, a sliver of silver, cast a gentle glow over the snow-covered landscape. His heart felt surprisingly full, a quiet contentment settling into the spaces that had often felt empty. He hadn't meant to whisper those words, hadn't planned to reveal the sudden intense warmth Alara had ignited within him. But her vulnerability, her open gaze, had called it forth, an honest echo of her own unspoken feelings. He traced the memory of her smile, the soft curve of her lips, the way her hand had fit so perfectly in his. This cabin, this solitude he had sought for so long, had unexpectedly brought him a connection he hadn't realized he craved. He knew with a certainty that hummed in his bones that tomorrow would be different, imbued with a new kind of magic. Winnie. The first rays of dawn, pale and pearlescent, filtered through the cabin window, painting the rustic wooden walls in soft hues. Alara woke slowly, a smile already gracing her lips before her eyes even opened. There was a lightness to her spirit, a gentle hum of anticipation that banished any lingering sleepiness. She stretched, feeling invigorated, and finally opened her eyes to the quiet beauty of the morning. The cabin was still and peaceful, but a faint aroma of coffee and something sweet drifted from the main living area. Liam was already up. A flutter of warmth spread through Alara's chest. She quickly dressed in warm layers, soft wool socks, a thick sweater, and sturdy trousers, eager to join him. When she stepped into the living room, Liam was indeed by the hearth, stoking the rekindled fire, its flames now dancing brightly. A kettle whistled softly on the stove, and a plate of golden brown pancakes, still steaming, sat on the small dining table. The scene was utterly domestic, utterly inviting, and Alara felt her heart swell. "Good morning," she said, her voice a little shy but filled with genuine warmth. Liam turned, a mug in his hand, and his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Good morning, Alara," he replied, his smile easy and genuine. "Sleep well?" "Like a dream," she admitted, moving towards the table. "And you? Did you conjure up all this magic by yourself?" She gestured to the breakfast spread. He chuckled, a low, pleasant sound. "I had a little help from a recipe book and the early bird's advantage. Coffee's ready, and there's maple syrup and berries for the pancakes." They settled at the small wooden table, bathed in the soft morning light. The quiet between them was no longer laden with unspoken longing, but with a comfortable ease, a shared understanding that had deepened overnight. They talked about the weather, the crispness in the air, the fresh dusting of snow outside, and the simple pleasure of a hot breakfast. "These are delicious, Liam," Alara said, taking a bite of a fluffy pancake. "You're full of surprises." He shrugged modestly. "Just a hobby. I find cooking relaxing, especially out here." He paused, then looked at her, his gaze gentle. "What about you, Alara? What brings you to a remote cabin in the middle of winter?" Alara took a sip of her coffee, its warmth spreading through her. "I'm a textile artist," she began, "mostly weaving and natural dyeing. My work, it started to feel a bit stagnant in the city. Too much noise, too many demands that pulled me away from the quiet focus I needed. I came here looking for inspiration, for a slower rhythm, for a chance to reconnect with the raw materials of nature. She gestured vaguely towards the window, where snow-laden pines stood sentinel. And I found it. In spades. Liam listened intently, a thoughtful expression on his face. That makes sense, he said. The quiet here has a way of stripping away the unnecessary, doesn't it? I came for something similar. I'm a carpenter, or at least I was, before I decided to take a sabbatical. I was building houses, intricate custom work, but I lost sight of the craft itself, the joy of working with wood. I bought this cabin a few years ago, mostly for weekends, but recently decided to stay for a while. To work on smaller, more meaningful projects, to reconnect with the feel of the grain. To work on smaller, but instead of solid. He trailed off, a hint of a past weariness in his voice, quickly replaced by a lighter tone. It's been good, very good. Their eyes met, a shared understanding passing between them. They were both here for a form of healing, a quiet rediscovery. The silence that followed was rich with empathy. What are your plans for today? Liam asked, breaking the comfortable reverie. The snow is fresh, and the sun's trying to peek through. It would be a good day for a walk. Elara's eyes lit up. I'd love that. I haven't explored much beyond the immediate vicinity of the cabin. A real walk sounds perfect. Great, he said, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Let me just clean up, and we can bundle up. Windway. Bundled in their warmest coats, hats, and gloves, Elara and Liam stepped out into a landscape transformed. The fresh snow, a pristine blanket, sparkled under a sky that was slowly clearing to a brilliant blue. The air was crisp and invigorating, carrying the clean scent of pine and frozen earth. Liam led the way, setting a comfortable pace along a narrow, untrodden path that wound its way through a dense forest of towering pines and firs. Their boots crunched softly in the snow, the only sound breaking the profound silence of the wilderness. Sunlight dappled through the branches, creating shimmering patterns on the white ground. It's breathtaking, Elara murmured, her breath plumbing in the cold air. She looked at Liam, who was gazing up at the snow-laden boughs, a quiet appreciation in his eyes. You know this area well, don't you? I've spent a lot of time out here, he replied, turning his gaze back to her. Exploring, clearing fallen branches, sometimes just sitting and listening. There's a particular kind of peace to be found in places like this, away from everything. He extended a hand, gently pushing aside a low-hanging, snow-covered branch so she could pass. As their hands brushed, a familiar warmth spread through Elara. They walked for a while in companionable silence, absorbing the beauty around them. Elara found herself observing the small details, the intricate patterns of snowflakes on a fallen leaf, the vibrant red of winter berries peeking through the white, the delicate tracks of a small animal in the snow. She felt a surge of artistic inspiration, already envisioning colors and textures for her next weaving project. Look, Liam said softly, pointing towards a clearing ahead. There's a small frozen stream up there. It's beautiful when the light hits it just right. They emerged from the dense trees into a more open space, where a narrow stream, now a ribbon of ice, wound its way through the snow. On either side, tall grasses, stiff with frost, caught the sunlight, glittering like scattered diamonds. In the distance, through a gap in the trees, Elara could glimpse the soft, undulating peaks of snow-capped mountains. Oh, Liam, she breathed, genuinely moved. It's truly magical. She turned to him, her eyes wide with wonder. Thank you for bringing me here. He smiled, a gentle, genuine smile that reached his eyes. My pleasure. I knew you'd appreciate it. They stood there for a long moment, simply taking in the view. The silence was profound, broken only by the distant caw of a crow. Elara found herself reaching for Liam's hand, her fingers seeking his. This time there was no hesitation, no surprise, just a natural progression. His hand closed around hers, warm and firm, a comforting anchor in the vastness of the landscape. It makes you feel small, doesn't it? Elara said, her voice barely above a whisper, her gaze fixed on the mountains. But in a good way. Like everything else just fades away, and all that's left is this moment. Exactly, Liam agreed, his thumb stroking the back of her hand. It puts things into perspective, reminds you of what truly matters. He paused, then turned to face her fully, his hand still holding hers. You have a way of seeing the beauty in things, Alara, even in the quietest moments. Her cheeks flushed slightly under his steady gaze. And you have a way of finding them, Liam, she countered softly. Of creating a space where they can be seen. A comfortable blush rose in his own cheeks, and he looked away for a moment, tracing patterns in the snow with the toe of his boot. I used to be so focused on building, on creating tangible structures, he confessed, his voice a little softer, that I sometimes forgot to simply be in the world. To appreciate the structures that already existed, the ones nature built. He looked back at her, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. You remind me of that, of the quiet artistry in everything. Alara squeezed his hand gently. We all need reminding sometimes, she said, her voice full of empathy. She understood that feeling, the way life could pull you away from your essence, make you forget the simple joys. That's why I came here too, I suppose, to remember. They continued their walk, their hands remaining intertwined. They talked about their pasts, not in great detail, but in broad strokes that hinted at lessons learned and paths taken. Alara spoke of a time when her art had felt more like a chore than a passion, when the pressure to succeed had overshadowed the joy of creation. Liam shared snippets of his career, the relentless pace, the feeling of being a cog in a machine rather than a craftsman. There was a shared thread of rediscovery, a yearning for authenticity that had drawn them both to this remote corner of the world. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the snow, they found themselves heading back towards the cabin, invigorated by the fresh air and the deepening connection between them. The warmth of Liam's hand in hers was a constant, comforting presence, a silent affirmation of the bond that was steadily growing between them. Yahweh. Returning to the cabin rosy-cheeked and with a pleasant ache in their muscles, they shed their outer layers by the door, shaking off the last vestiges of snow. The cabin felt even cozier after the cold outside, its warmth a welcoming embrace. Liam immediately set about rekindling the fire, coaxing new life from the banked embers, while Alara put the kettle on for hot chocolate. That was exactly what I needed, Alara said, rubbing her hands together by the rising heat of the fire. Thank you, Liam. Anytime, he replied, stoking the flames. He stood, brushing off his hands. How about we make some dinner? I have some ingredients for a simple vegetable stew. It'll warm us right up. Sounds perfect, she agreed. What can I do? They moved around the small kitchen with a natural ease, a comfortable dance of shared tasks. Alara chopped vegetables, carrots, potatoes, onions, while Liam browned spices in a pot, the fragrant aroma filling the cabin. They chatted easily, their conversation flowing from the mundane to the meaningful. They laughed when Alara accidentally dropped a potato and Liam offered a reassuring smile when she fumbled with the peeler. It was a simple, everyday act, yet it felt imbued with a special intimacy, a quiet joy in shared effort. As the stew simmered, filling the cabin with its savory scent, they sat on the plush rug in front of the roaring fire, mugs of steaming hot chocolate warming their hands. Alara leaned back against the comfortable cushions, feeling utterly content. Tell me about your favorite project, Alara prompted, looking at Liam. The one that truly sparked joy, that reminded you why you love what you do. Liam thought for a moment, a faraway look in his eyes. There was a small cabin, actually, he began, a soft smile playing on his lips. Up in the mountains, much smaller than this one. The owner was an elderly woman, a writer who just wanted a quiet retreat. She didn't have a big budget, but she had a clear vision. We worked together, just the two of us, designing every little detail. I hand-carved the window frames, built custom shelving for her books, even crafted a small writing desk from a reclaimed piece of oak. It wasn't about the money, it was about the artistry connection to the wood. Alara listened, captivated, imagining Liam, focused and dedicated, his hands shaping the wood with care. That sounds beautiful, she said softly. I think that's what we all yearn for, isn't it? Work that feels like an extension of ourselves, that connects us to something larger. And you? Liam asked, turning to her. Your favorite weaving? The one that felt like it truly sang. Alara's eyes took on a dreamy quality. It was a piece I made after a trip to the coast. All natural dyes, indigo from the sea, ochre from the cliffs, a soft gray from the mist. It was a large tapestry, and it flowed like water, with textures that mimicked the sand and the spray. I didn't plan it meticulously. I just let the yarn guide me, let the memory of the ocean infuse every thread. When it was finished, it felt like a piece of the sea itself. Captured and held, it taught me to trust the process. They shared a quiet moment, a deep understanding passing between them, a recognition of the passion and dedication that fueled their creative souls. It was a comforting realization, finding someone who understood that profound connection to one's craft. Dinner was served, a rich, fragrant stew that warmed them from the inside out. They ate by the flickering firelight, the conversation gentle and meandering, filled with anecdotes and shared observations. The day had been full, active, and deeply connecting. As the evening wore on, a comfortable drowsiness began to settle over them. Liam shifted on the rug, drawing his knees up, and Alara found herself leaning a little closer, drawn by an invisible pull. He reached out, his fingers gently brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, tucking it behind her ear. His touch was feather-light, yet it sent a shiver of warmth through her. His gaze, soft and tender, held hers, a silent invitation, a quiet question. Alara's breath hitched again, just as it had the night before. The air crackled with a different kind of electricity now, not just unspoken longing, but a deeper, more certain affection. She slowly leaned in, her eyes fluttering closed as their lips finally met. It was a slow, tender kiss, soft as the falling snow, yet brimming with the warmth of the roaring fire. It was a kiss of quiet discovery, of gentle affirmation, of all the unspoken words and shared moments of the day. There was no rush, no urgency, just a profound sweetness that lingered, deepening with each passing second. Liam's hand moved from her hair to cup her cheek, his thumb stroking softly. Alara's hand found its way to his arm, holding on, anchoring herself in the exquisite moment. When they finally broke apart, it was with a soft sigh, their foreheads still resting together. Alara opened her eyes, meeting Liam's gaze, which was now shining with a quiet joy. Her heart felt like it was humming, a gentle melody of contentment. "That was," Alara whispered, searching for the right words. "Perfect," Liam finished for her, his voice a low rumble. He gently kissed her forehead, then her temple, before pulling her close, wrapping his arms around her in a warm, comforting embrace. Alara nestled into his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her ear, inhaling the subtle scent of pine and wood smoke that clung to him. She closed her eyes, a profound sense of peace settling over her. This cabin, this quiet retreat, had not only offered her the inspiration she sought for her art, but something far more precious, something she hadn't dared to hope for. With Liam, wrapped in his embrace by the fire, she felt truly, completely at home. The night outside was still and cold, but inside, the warmth of the fire and the blossoming love between them glowed brighter than any star. The promise of tomorrow, with its gentle whispers and shared discoveries, felt more real, more tangible than ever before. This was just the beginning, a beautiful, heartwarming prelude to a story still unfolding. The days that followed painted their own gentle masterpiece. Alara found herself waking not to the quiet ache of solitude, but to the soft glow of morning light filtering through Liam's cottage windows, and often, the scent of fresh coffee brewing. They explored the surrounding woods, shared stories over hearty meals, and discovered a comfortable rhythm unique to them. Alara learned about Liam's quiet passion for woodworking, the way his strong hands could coax beauty from a simple block of timber. Liam, in turn, discovered Alara's whimsical love for forgotten tales, her talent for sketching the delicate wildflowers they found, and the quiet strength beneath her initially reserved demeanor. One crisp afternoon, while walking along the winding riverbank, Alara paused, tracing the smooth surface of a skipping stone. "I never thought I'd find this," she confessed, her voice soft, almost a whisper carried by the breeze. "A place where I truly belong, a person." She turned to face him, her eyes, usually guarded, now shining with an open vulnerability that melted Liam's heart. "It's more than just a house, isn't it?" Liam reached out, gently cupping her cheek, his thumb stroking her skin. "It's never just a house, Alara. It's the feeling you carry within it, the memories you make, the love you share." He looked into her eyes, a lifetime of quiet devotion reflected there. "And with you, Every corner of this world feels like home. A tear, warm and freeing, trickled down Alara's cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness, but of profound relief and joy. All the years of searching, the fleeting moments of hope, the quiet longing, they had all led her here, to this man, this moment. She leaned into his touch, her hand finding his and intertwining their fingers. "I love you, Liam," she whispered, the words feeling both utterly new and eternally true, as if her heart had known them all along. Liam's smile was radiant, a beacon of pure happiness. "And I you, Alara, more than words can say." He pulled her into a tender embrace, holding her close as the river murmured its timeless song. The sun dipped lower, casting long, golden shadows across the landscape, painting the world in hues of warmth and promise. That evening, back by the familiar glow of the fireplace, with the scent of pine and wood smoke filling the air, they sat in comfortable silence, their hands clasped between them. Alara rested her head on Liam's shoulder, a sense of peace settling deep within her bones. The journey had been long, the path uncertain, but here, in his arms, she had not only found a home, but built a sanctuary of the heart. The story was no longer just unfolding. It was deeply, beautifully rooted, a testament to two souls finding their perfect, gentle rhythm, ready to face every tomorrow, together, forever.